Hello, good morning. Welcome to New Forest Morph. I hope everyone has had a wonderful weekend. Jared is joining me this morning. It's Monday morning and it's the beginning of a new week, Jared. Did you have a good weekend, Jared?
Yeah, it was good.
Good, it's lovely to have you back. So today we are talking about the next project, which is the albino pied clown project that we're working on. And we've been working on this from virtually day one. In fact, Jared, you're one of the original snakes, was an albino, or at least
double het albino
double
pied.
het. Do you want to bring Mo out? Because this is one of your original snakes. Was it Jaffa? Bring Jaffa out to start with.
He's the very first one.
Very first snake. So let's come out and see. Now, is he carrying anything het for?
He's double het.
He's a double het. So this is your boy.
Albino pied.
So this is your first ever project.
Yeah.
He's been a lovely boy, hasn't he?
Yeah, I've had him since 2017.
2017. So that gives you what, nearly 7 years in the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And you bought a girl for him as well. So what was the girl that you had, Jared? Can you remember the girl?
I bought just a het pied girl.
Yeah.
So I was obviously just starting out, doing it all on a budget, trying to keep it low.
Yeah.
He was 100 quid and the girl was 50.
Right.
And they were my very first little project.
There he goes. Let's see if we can come out. He is a lovely boy, isn't he? And you really bonded with him really nicely.
He's in shed at the moment. But
Yeah. He's
a lovely boy. He's really chill.
Yeah. So double het. So there we go. So that was your first ever snake, and he's now doing really well. So we'll slip him back and let's get out the girl that you bought for him, so we can see where we are with the project.
I don't think we have that girl anymore.
So it would be Mo, wouldn't it? Mo.
Well, Phoenix was the girl.
Yeah.
Mo's the baby.
I see. So let's bring out Mo, because Phoenix was the mother.
Yeah, we didn't need her anymore, so I think we've sold her on.
Yeah. So Mo, I think she gave us a clutch this year, first ever clutch. She's your first ever baby.
Yeah, she's one of them.
Let's have a little look at her. She's a decent size now. She's eating well, back on food.
She's got to be like three or 4 years old now, right?
Yeah. So we know that she's now 100% het for albino. She was originally bought as a 66% het, or 50% het, I think. And she proved out, because we'll show you her offspring where we got one of the albinos from her. And she's got the pied markings as well, hasn't she? And that's one of the reasons you bought her.
Well, mate, we produced her.
Yeah. Sorry?
Produced her.
Yeah.
She doesn't actually have the markings.
Right.
It's her sister.
Oh, it's her sister. Okay. So interestingly enough, that's probably why we didn't hit any albino pies than Jared. But she's definitely 100% het for albino. She may not be carrying the pied gene. So we'll just slip her back. But she's another beautiful wild looking snake. And she's got a very healthy appetite. They're all very fiery, Jared, weren't they, when they were hatchlings?
Yeah, they would bite me all the time.
And that was one of your first ever clutches you ever had.
Yeah.
And then I suppose we should introduce Bruce to you. Now Bruce is an albino, which with a difference. He's got a very bright albino about him. And he is 100% het for pied.
It's like someone's taken a highlighter.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that just a beautiful bright albino going through there? And he's a lovely boy, and he's now a proven breeder, and he is 100% het for albino. So we're halfway towards our project with this guy, and he's got a lovely temperament. He feeds well, he breeds well, and he was quite a small little runt when we first got him, and he started feeding and building nicely, really. But he's lovely, and let's see, he's got those red eyes. And just look at the brightness, Jared, of the patterns on him. Stunning, isn't it? So I wonder whether something else is going on in here, Jared, or whether that's the influence of the het pied influence.
The camera doesn't do him justice. You can't really see it as well.
Yeah. There we go.
But he's very, very bright.
There we go. There he is. Beautiful boy. So he's Bruce, and his he was bred from Daisy. Now, one of my original albinos is Daisy, who's a beautiful albino, and she is 100% het for. Oh no, she's a albino that is a leopard albino, and she was 50% het for pied. But I don't think she's carrying the pied. You could go and have a quick look at her, Jared, to see what an adult leopard albino looks like.
I think she's starting to go into a shed. There she is.
So she's now proven breeding as well. So I think what we'll do, we'll just see the 2 offspring from both Mo and from Daisy. And we'll start with Mo's offspring first. And I'll just bring the visual albino. Now it turns out, Jared, that we hit 4 males, didn't we?
Yeah. All of them were boys, so all of them will probably be available.
Yeah. The other ones are going into shed, but we'll just bring out this one, I think.
And there's one that's got the paradox in as well.
I'll get the paradox in
Far
too.
left.
So if you want to get a nice zoomed in image. So they've had several meals, they're eating well. And I would say that one's getting close to 100 grams, would you say, Joe?
Yeah, I reckon.
So this one will go on Morph Market, and we think this is going to be 50% het for pied. Possibly 66% if, but you can see that she's a beautiful girl, a beautiful boy. So if you'd like a boy for your albino projects, he's going to become available. And he's got a very good feeding instinct, and he's taking rat fluffs at the moment. You can see we've got all our babies focused today. So you can see we've got the rat pups here. Actually no, they're Maltese. Sorry, we've got the fluffs. Fluffs are in there, and then we've got some pups that are defrosting over there. So we've got probably 30 pups to feed, and we've got 110 fluffs, so that's about 150 babies to feed today. And we've got a few of our mature adults that we're going to be giving a multi to as well, just building up the boys and the girls ready for next season. And next season isn't far away, so we've been searching the internet, Morph Market, to see whether we can fill in some of our projects, and we've got 3 or 4 animals that we'll be bringing in to our collection. So each year you kind of review where you are and you think, what can I do to further advance these projects? And what would be helpful on this project, Jared, would be to get hold of an albino pied girl, and then we could and she was het for clown. That would be a very powerful animal. And then we could plug in this boy to her to try to produce some albino pieds that will hopefully be het for clown as well. We do actually have some potential het clown albinos we're going to show you in a minute. So yeah, we were a bit unlucky on the odds here. We hit 4 boys, so they'll all be available. And that one I think's got a paradox in there as well, Jared. If we just pick out the paradox. We thought it was a ringer, but it looks more like a paradox.
Yeah, you can see the albino coming through.
Yeah. Shall I compare the two? If I bring this one out to here. So they've got a nice temperament, but can you see the albinos trying to come through as a paradox there? And you can see the albino colours.
The blacks go white and the browns go yellow.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? Now this one could be het for pied as well, Jared.
Because the dad was 100% het.
Yeah.
So they're all possible hets.
Yeah, so that could be het for pied, and it certainly would be. I'm trying to think, if she's a het, a het albino, and he's a visual, they're 100% het for albino, all of them, because the father's an albino. So this could prove to be a double het boy with a paradox. So a nice little gold ring on its end there. So really nice. A lovely little clutch. They're all eating well, and they'll all be available. So we'll slip those back, and then we'll pull out our other albinos, which are leopard albinos, some of them, which are 50% het for clown. And then we've got to work out how we're going to produce an albino clown pied, is what we're trying to produce as the project here. So we'll
at the moment we're closer to lavender clown pieds, but
we are. But let's just put these back, Jack. No, they're quite active. I think they can smell the food. Right, I'm just going to pull out the babies from Daisy. Now they're clutch 21, and we've got some males and we've got some females, I think. Yeah.
These are being a pain to get on food, these ones. But
so today these are the ones that we're going to try to get to feed. So there we go. I'm not sure whether you can see any leopard in those.
So this one's a leopard. but they're all a little bit too thin for my liking, so.
Yeah. That one's taking a meal, that one there. A little bit chunkier, I think. This one's taken 2 meals.
So if they don't eat today, they're going to be assist fed.
Yeah.
So this one's a leopard. Oh no, it's not. This one's not a leopard.
So I think we've
You can
got.
see the difference.
Is it 6 we've got in total, Joe?
This one's a leopard.
There we go. So we've got 6 albinos. And we've worked out the sex ratios. It was 50-50. So we've got a male. That is that one a leopard, Jared, or was that one a...
So this one's a leopard here.
So that's a female.
This one's a leopard here.
That one is a female. So we've got 2
Not a leopard. Not sure about this one.
She's a female. So we've got 2 females that are leopard albinos, 50% het for clown. So hopefully one of them will prove out to be a clown.
And I think these 4 are all normal albinos, though.
Yeah.
Het clowns.
Okay.
But they're all a little bit skinny. They need a bit of food in them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. We'll get them feeding, Jared. Sometimes they just have to get hungry before they feed, and we'll give them focused attention this afternoon and see whether we can get them feeding nicely. But half of these will become available. So if anybody wants to get into the albino potential het clown project, these will all be available probably in the next 6 weeks once we get them all feeding nicely. Do you want to? That's it.
Yeah, let's get a shot of all of them.
Okay.
And they all are.
Yep. There we go. So very pretty snakes, and they will be a good price. And we'll just set those on back, Jack. Now, while I do that, do you want to introduce everyone to the new board that we've got here, Jared? You've ordered a new board, so we're in the process of doing our planning, and we started with one of our projects. So let's just show.
Yeah, we haven't got far, but
Yeah, it's just a starting position. So
what we're going to do is get all of our males and all of our females lined up, showing exactly what we're going to be breeding, and then along here we'll have each month, we'll have whether they've locked, who is paired to what, ovulations. It'll be a breeding board that just shows absolutely everything that we need to trace.
yeah,
But we need to work it all out on paper so we can then transfer it over to the board.
yeah, exactly. So that's going to be a very helpful tool, and it's something we can do every year. We can obviously refresh that every year, but it will give us. We've been kind of keeping records on paper, and I think sometimes it's nice to have the visual so that you can actually plan things out. And so what we're going to do is go through all next year's projects, and we're going to be very selective with what we breed, so that everything we breed will be feeding into the projects. It's very important to get that right, and we'll be bringing in new animals that we need to help bridge those projects, particularly when we're moving towards the triple recessives is what we're starting to move towards. So to do that, we are trying to source visuals that are double hets is what we're trying to source, and we have found a few. We talked about that particular project, the Banana Leopard Clown Pride project. What we've realised is we don't have enough girls for that boy, and therefore we've been trying to source some visual pieds that are 100% het for clown, or visual clowns that are 100% het for pied, with some codoms in. And there's quite a few mature females out there, and we've had 1 or 2 people contact us as well. Thank you for watching the channel and for offering your animals to us, because that's also very helpful. It works both ways. We can communicate what we're selling, but also other people can communicate back what they think would be suitable to fit into our projects. So we do appreciate that. And this afternoon, Jad and I are going to go through a few of those messages, and we're going to see what would be suitable for our projects and our budget. And we've got 1 or 2 other things out there that we are looking at to help bridge our projects, because I think there's a shortage in the Exantic Clown project that we've got, Jad. We've got 2 double hets. So what I'm trying to source is an Exantic boy that is 100% het for clown, and that will reduce the odds from 16 down to 8, which makes it more doable because we've got a double het Exantic clown girl there. The other option we've got is to go for a Exantic clown pied, so you can cover 2 projects, and there's 1 or 2 out there that I'm going to discuss it with Jared again, which could be quite a useful approach. So the other idea is to go for a visual double het, so it allows you to feed into 2 separate projects with the same animal, and that means that if you've got limitation of space, This is where the triple recessives and the double recessive projects head. With carrying a het is very useful. So I think that's that. Now the other thing we were going to discuss, Jared, is talking about the different genetics. What we can do is, with the board that we've got, we can also use that to kind of explain some of the genetics and some of the odds. And there is a magnet on there, and then you've got magnet dials so that we can actually use the magnets to help us. So for example, when we're talking about an incomplete dominant, I mean, a lot of people use the word co-dominant in our hobby, and the reality is that there's only probably one ball python that is co-dominant, and that is the scaleless, because the scaleless actually has small scales on its head and the rest of the animal looks pretty normal. And therefore with co-dominance, Jared, you've got a situation where effectively you've got two different genes going into the one animal, but they're actually partly on part of the animal and part on the other. So to be an incomplete dominant is basically a genetic which, for example, banana, or let's say another example of pastel. An incomplete dominant means that you've got a gene that is incomplete. So the pastel on its own is an incomplete dominant, meaning there's a super form, which means you can get like a super pastel. And if you put the two pastels together, you end up with the super form. That gives you a complete, that gives you then the complete animal in its visual look. So incomplete dominants tend to be genetics that go into the next offspring, and there's a 50-50 chance of them going into the next offspring. So if you had a pastel and you bred it to a normal, there's a 50% chance that pastel will go into the normal. So, and then if you wanted to produce a super pastel, you'd have two pastels, breed them together, and the chances of hitting a super pastel would be 1 in 4, because you multiply the odds on each side. So if there's 1 in 2 on one pastel, multiply 1 divided by 2 times 1 divided by 2 is 1 out of 4. Therefore you've got a 1 in 4 chance of hitting a super version, which is then the complete visual animal. So the incomplete dominants are incomplete because they need the other side of the gene to give it its complete visual representation. And then a dominant gene, Jared, how would you define a dominant gene, and what example would you give for a dominant gene?
Something that doesn't have a super form, like the classic wild type.
So it's interesting you say that, but there's a little bit of debate, because people were saying that the leopard is a dominant gene, and yet people are also saying that there's a super form of leopard, which isn't very difficult to see, but it's there.
A spider.
So with a dominant gene, it means like the gene, if you were to have two versions of the gene, it wouldn't make any difference to the visual appearance. So like if you put a leopard into a snake. Now for example, we had an example this year where Hercules, we thought, is just a single leopard gene, but when we looked at the offspring, we had 7 snakes and all of them were leopard. So we thought, is he a super leopard, because he's guaranteeing leopard in all the genetics. So the power of a super leopard is that when you breed with him, everything will be leopard, because he's carrying 2 of the genes, and therefore one of them will be passed across, and therefore everything's guaranteed to be leopard. But because the leopard, the super form and the single form are identical, it's difficult to know whether your animal was carrying that super leopard. So maybe we've bought an animal from the breeder who thought there was only one leopard in there. And
there is only one.
Why would you say that, Jared?
We put him to the spot nose girl and we didn't get any Batmans. So.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about
that. Yeah. But no, we got very lucky with those odds to get 7.
So that must have been luck. But in theory, you could end up with a situation where you've got a super and you don't realise you have it. The other one we had is Hazel was an Orange Dream, sold as an Orange Dream. Everything in her clutch was Orange Dream. So we're thinking that she's probably a super Orange Dream.
Yeah.
Now, an Orange Dream is an incomplete dominant, and the super version should be much brighter and much clearer, and the shapes are even more defined. So that isn't a dominant gene. But some incomplete dominant genes are very subtle, and it's difficult to see the super form, particularly when it's mixing with other genetics. So a lot of people could sell an Orange Dream not realising they're selling a super Orange Dream. And the only way to do it is to prove them out and work out. So Hazel, for us, we think is a super Orange Dream, and therefore we're building her up ready for the next season so that we can utilise that super to guarantee everything to have Orange Dream and Yellow Belly in going forwards. So these are the things that you learn through your breeding season, what you've got, what the power and the genetics are. So these are all good. So a dominant gene effectively is very similar to an incomplete dominant gene, except that with the dominant gene you can see in the event of having a super form, there's no difference between the single form and the super form, if you see what I'm saying. And then the recessive, we were going to talk about recessive, Jared. How would you define a recessive gene?
It's something where you need both parents to hold that gene in order to see the visual.
Exactly. And the word recessive comes from the fact that the gene is hiding behind the wild type. So it recedes back behind the wild type. So the word recessive means it's behind everything else. So it's kind of keeping a low profile. You can see the influence of the het, because the het has an influence on the genetics, and often, as we have in previous videos, we talked about the pied. So the pied is a recessive gene. When you produce a het pied, you can't see the pied, but you can see ringers, you can see tracks, you can see the influence of the recessive gene manifesting itself in the wild type. And so a recessive gene is basically needing both parents to carry at least one of the genetics, and those two genetics have got to come together. So if you end up with a situation where you breed a het to a het, the father will be het for pied, the mother will be het for pied. When you bring those together, you get a 1 in 4 chance of hitting a pied. That makes sense, because there's a 50-50 chance from each side of the parents. So that gives you 1 out of 4.
Bit like a super.
Yeah. Now if you work out, the remaining snakes are going to be 66% het for pied, aren't they? Because you've got 3 snakes left, and of those 3, 2 out of the 3 would be het for pied, and the one of them would normally be wild and won't carry any of those genetics, and that's how we get our 66% het. It's 2/3, 2 out of the remaining 3 would be possible 66% het for pied. So that's how you work out the numbers on there. So recessive genes, if you had 2 parents that were pied and you bring them together, Jad,
Everything's pied.
and why would everything be pied?
Because both of them have two forms of two of the genes in them. They both pass down 1, which means that the babies get 2 genes as well.
Exactly. So that means that all the babies will carry those genetics. And that's the beautiful thing about working recessives, is when you're working recessives, even though they are harder to hit initially, once you've hit the visuals, you're guaranteed them, and both parents carry them, everything going forward will be guaranteed. So we did particularly well with the albino clutch we spoke about earlier, because the father was an albino, 50% or 100% het clown, and the mother was an albino leopard. Put the two together, we ended up with 6 beautiful albinos, because that's a recessive gene. Albino is a recessive gene. But when both parents carry them, you're not dealing with any wild type looking animals that are carrying percentages or recessive. Now in this current climate, even though we've got shed testing to help us, I think the key is to move away from breeding 50% and 66%, Jared, and actually trying to get a visual. And if you get at least one of the parents carrying the visual, everything is 100% het. So I think it's important to try to get either one of the parents carrying the visual where possible. Otherwise you could be breeding a lot of animals that you're not sure whether they're carrying the het or not. And 3 years of work, and then suddenly you try and prove them out, like Mo for example, it's 4 years of work. The reality is we didn't hit an albino pied, because we thought she might be carrying pied, but she didn't. And the boy was carrying pied, but he needed the other parent to have the het pied marking for a visual pied to appear. So it's a lot of work there for us, but if we would have done a shed test, we could have worked out that she wasn't carrying that pied, and therefore we may not have decided to breed her, if you see what I'm saying. So shed testing and working with visuals and 100% hets is really where it's at in terms of moving your projects forward. So I think that's about all on that side, Jared. Are there any other things you wanted to bring up at all, Jared? Anything else going on? So I think that will do it for today. Thank you so much for your love and support. Keep those comments coming, and we shall give you an update in the next few days. And thanks for watching. Bye for now.